Hello there YouTube, it's Victor, King of the Morons here on the gimmeabreakman channel doing a question answer video for a young lady named Ashley. And I'll read you her email. She's going to school. She's going to school in Battle Creek, Missouri. And they're doing a project on teaching as a profession. So they've got to interview ESL teachers, and that's what I am. So she found one of my videos. And what she has done is she has sent me a bunch of questions, and I think they might interest you as well. So instead of just answering them, I'm going to link them in the description and just go through them and answer them off the top of my head. However, since this is a more intellectual endeavor, I will not be partaking in the poison this evening. I will be drinking coffee from my Harley Davidson mug. The first section is all these different sections. How many sections? 5 topics. Each topic has a few questions. Number one, our first topic is procedures and routines. What American type class management techniques do you think do or don't work in Japanese classrooms? Why? I have no idea what that means. American type class management techniques. Well, something I have noticed, and I do, although I'm an ESL teacher, I am interested in teaching in general, and I often, watch videos about teaching or read books about teaching. And I know that in America they have this idea that small classes are best. And I think when it comes to ESL, I agree, just because it's people want maximum speaking time. But I noticed in Japan a lot of the classes are huge, like all high school classes, like 30 to 40 students, no big deal. So I wouldn't think that's a management technique, but I would say that I noticed that teachers in general here, there are weird rules here that teachers are encouraged. Well, they're supposed to follow. For example, when you're writing something on the board, you're not supposed to talk until you're finished writing. So like when I do this, now this is not my rule, but when I'm in my room, I'm writing and speaking at the same time and explaining as I go along, right? But in some of my students are teachers actually at high schools, and they say, no, when you write on the board, you can't speak until you're finished writing, so the students can concentrate. I guess, I don't know. So I think there are these funny rules in Japan that don't necessarily apply to they're not American in any sense. Like you would never. They seem almost ridiculous. Another example is that in Japan, the students are basically getting lectured to the whole time. There's very little class participation, and they're brought up that way. So for people like us who are ESL teachers, and the point is to get the students to speak, we're a bit frustrated, and not that this will help you in any way, except understand. So you may come to Japan and become an ESL teacher, and you'll be like, why don't the students speak? Why don't they take part? Well, some of them will, but a lot of them were just raised not to. That's the way they were raised. So, number one, long question and no real answer. Number two question, what class management techniques in Japan are used most often or work well? Do you prefer, and why? Which do you prefer? Which do you think that work better than certain techniques used in America? I can't compare ESL with America at all, so I can't really answer these questions. I will say that being friendly with students sometimes in the classroom, I've noticed with high school and junior high school students, when you are, when you treat them almost as your peers, what they end up doing is disrespecting you. And I notice that they actually feel comfortable when you become, I won't say authoritarian, but heavy-handed. So if you're having trouble controlling the kids and you're like, why? I'm friendly with them and I treat them with respect like they're my peers. But they often won't respond to that, but they will respond to open your books to page 35 and repeat after, for some reason that kind of stuff works. But of course it depends on the classroom. If you're doing a large group, it's different from a small group, which is different from a one-on-one situation. So I'm sorry, I can't really help with those two questions. Number three, let's see if this gets any better. 3, what are your methods of discipline? Do you have a reward system? When you're teaching kids, and I have to remember, I've taught pretty much anybody, everything, business classes, high school classes, junior high school classes, kids, adults, salarymen, a lot of obasans, I shouldn't say obasan, a lot of middle-aged women, young women, obviously, anyone, you get the idea. So with adults, you don't really do a reward system at all. But in the classroom, I'll have two activities. One of them will be a little bit more scholarly, or a little bit more, maybe let's say tedious, not as fun. And at the end, I'll save something like a movie clip to show, or a game, or some activity that they'll enjoy. So that's the only real reward system I have. With kids, sometimes I've worked at school where they hand you all these stickers, or the other teachers will say, go get some stickers, and at the end of the class, give them a sticker. And the kids, they're really into it, like, okay, we finished class, give us our sticker. And they collect all these stickers, and their books are full of stickers. So, shiru, they call it in Japanese. They don't say sticker in Japanese, by the way. They say shiru, seal, right? Okay, number 4, how does the grading system work? How do you deal with late work? I'm an ESL teacher, so I'm not sure why I'm getting these questions at all. Are you sure you wanted to ask me these questions? I said, yeah, ESL have to come. No, we don't care. The whole point of ESL is to get you to speak. I will say that I'm the kind of student, I'm the kind of teacher who, if you like homework and you work hard and you put it a lot into the class, I give you more. And I'm happy to, right? Even if it's extra work for me. A lot of teachers they just want to get in and out, get in and out. And it really depends on the situation. If you're having regular students come back every week, then you might want to give them some homework to have some continuation. But if you're dealing with some students that are irregular, I want to say laxative, but give them laxative. Now, if they're irregular, then what you might want to do is create classes that are independent. Like, I want to talk about TV. Like, some television shows are episodic and there's a storyline going through. Well, think of it that way. Some shows, they're their own separate story, right? Think of your classes that way. The beginning and the end, the whole class, you do it one time. There's no homework. There's no follow up. It doesn't connect to last class. It doesn't go to the future class. That kind of thing. What I do is create classes that are independent and can survive, independent of the past and the future. They're basically like a short story. It's not a dragged out long lesson that takes 10 weeks to complete, right? No long projects. It depends when you're working, actually. Number 5, how do you relate to your students? A good way to relate to your students is to just read the newspaper. Find out what's happening in the local entertainment world, especially. I'll give you an example. I have some high school students, and there's a group here in Japan called Katun. And one of the members of Katun, Tanaka Koki, was kicked out recently. So I was going. It was a high school class, very low level high school class, and I was going around the room. We were talking about Arashi, their favorite, one of the most popular groups, much more popular than Katun, I think. And they asked me, Victor, what's your favorite Arashi member? And I made the joke of Tanaka Koki, which is he's not even in the group, but he's in the news, and everyone's talking about how he had been kicked out of the group, and they were all shocked that I even knew about it. So. A good way to do this is go get on Twitter and subscribe to a bunch of these, entertainment threads, or whatever they're called, Twitter people. What are they called? The people who tweet about that kind of stuff, or just keep your eye on. Find some places on the net that have that kind of entertainment stuff. But it depends on the students. Of course, this is the Tanaka Koki reference is not going to inspire any connection with adults or old people. So find out what your students like and try to read a little bit about what they're interested in and relate to them that way. That's one way to relate. Be careful. So get them to speak, find out what they like, and that's how you relate to them. One of the mistakes a lot of ESL teachers make is that they talk about themselves too much because the students are interested in it, but they don't let it go to their heads, but they start to think that that's what everyone wants to hear. But your job is to get them to speak. And the more you find out about them, the easier it is to relate to them. So, number 6, how do you relate the curriculum to your students? Again, it depends on the group I'm teaching. Often with kids, you have a book and you go through the book, and then you add games or activities that complement the book, or whatever is being taught in the book. With adults, I often do articles that I think they might find interesting, and of course, I try to give them as much speaking time as possible. So yeah, again, the same thing. Find out what they like. Find out what they're interested in. Find out what they need. Also, a lot of teachers though focus too much on what they need and not what the student wants. Because if you're an ESL teacher, part of your job is to make the student happy, and you might be thinking, well, you need to learn grammar, and you need to learn this vocabulary, but often the student just wants to speak. A lot of teachers have this, and this is good. I think a pretty good way to deal with students. They don't try to teach so much new material as they give them a chance to review what they know. So instead of trying to fill their heads with stuff they don't know and being frustrated, you just get them to use what they do know and just become smoother at it and more confident in what's already in here, right? Let me see. Number 7, how do you begin class each day? It depends on the class. It's often either checking last week's homework, if it's that kind of class, or just what did you do this week? Another way, it depends on the class, is do a quick listening exercise. Maybe a trailer, like a movie trailer off YouTube or something. And if you really didn't have time to prepare, you can do that, and you can write blanks on the wall, on the whiteboard. Or you can actually do it on a piece of paper. Just before class, listen to it and write a bunch of blanks. And then even if it's just one sentence, and get them to listen to one sentence. That's a good way to kind of warm up the class. And you're actually getting something done, because listening, I cannot overly stress the importance of listening. Students who can speak but can't listening, there's really no point. Students who can speak but can't hear what you're saying, you can't have a conversation with that kind of person, with that unbalanced skill set. Okay. Number 8, how do you know how much homework to assign? Well, it depends on the student. Again, you just feel them out, and also find out how much they want. You ask them. It's ESL. They're paying you to kind of enjoy and learn at the same time. So, if you burden them with too much and they can't get it done, you're just gonna disappoint both of you. You're gonna create an uncomfortable next class. Number 9, do you have a bell? Do you have the bell work? I don't know what that is. I know a teacher who has one of those bells that you have at the hotel when you want attention. You go ding 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 on the counter. I don't know what they're called. Desk. There's a name for it. Someone write it down in the description. Anyway, I know some teachers use that, and it seems to work to quiet down when you have a large class, but generally, no, I don't use anything like that. Number 10, how do you call on students to answer questions? Ideally, you will have, and this is very rare, but when it happens, it's great. You will have one student who asks the other students. And one way is just with hand gestures. Like, I'll ask one student a question to get things started, and then I'll point to another student and say, do a bunch of gestures to get why don't you ask? Why don't you push? And I'll even say, look, there's someone will bring up a topic, and I'll say, this is really interesting. I want to ask so many questions, but I can't. I want you to ask. So you guys ask, and I'll just encourage someone to ask that way. But calling on students, I try to be fair. Which is sometimes a mistake. So if I have a large class and I notice that a couple students are a bit either shy or kind of bored because their parents are forcing them to go there, or to come to my school, then I will give them a chance and try to get them to answer. But if I find that they're really slow or something, I'll pick on someone who's obviously alert and paying attention and wants to answer. So you want to be fair, but you will be happily rewarded once in a while. I remember last week I called on a girl who I thought she's just not interested at all, but she did a really good job. She answered well, and it was just her face. Her face looked bored, but she was actually into it. So it's hard to tell sometimes by just looking at the face. That's the end of section 1. Topic 2 is the teaching lifestyles. Okay, number 1, what do you do for work or other when school is not in session? Well, a lot of things you could do. I used to partially own a bar, and I used to work there. Other things you can do, well, what else have I done in Japan to make money? Well, I worked at companies doing translation and such, helping out at companies, like office work kind of stuff. That's basically it. I mean, there's a bunch of other jobs you could do, I suppose. I would say if you want to improve your Japanese, you definitely want to do that. You're going to want to take another job just to get the practice. But in Japan, there's not really much else. I mean, it depends on you. Also, there isn't that much break time. A lot of if you come here and you get into one of the ESL schools, like the big ones, they're not going to give you a lot of holidays. So those holidays you'll probably want to just go home or go on vacation to Thailand or something, go back to your country for a while, or just relax, or travel around Japan. Oh, so that's my answer, traveling. When I have time, I'll travel around, right? I'll go somewhere. I went to Switzerland this year and America. Last year, I think I went to Hawaii. Go to Thailand last year? I don't remember. But anyway. Number 2, how long did you intend to teach versus how long have you... How long did you intend to teach versus how long you've been teaching? I always intended to be a teacher forever, basically. But I never intended on being a teacher in Japan this long. I intended to come over here for 1 year, and I've been here 23 years. My initial goal was come here, see if I like teaching, go back to America, and get a PhD and become a professor. Because American co-ed girls are much hot. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was because I love English literature, and that's what I was going to do. Okay, number 3. How do you act when you see students outside of the classroom? Hi! I mean, what do you mean? Hopefully I don't have a beer in my hand. Or it depends what I'm doing, but I just say hello and see you at school. What are you doing? I give them a little, chat, hey, what's up? What are you doing? Kind of stuff. And that's it. Number 4, where do you get lesson plans? Do you personally plan them? Yes, I make most of my lessons, though there is one newspaper I like in Japan called ST News, and most dialogues suck in Japan. Like when you're doing dialogues out of books, they're always so unnatural, but ST News has a great dialogue section. It's so natural. And the good news is that it's not laid out very well for a student to learn by themselves. So a good teacher can pick out the many more... there are a couple focus sentences in ST News, in the dialogue they do. I forgot what it's called, something like Welcome to Greenville or something. But if you look, you can find some really useful sentence patterns in the dialogue, and it's only 1 page. It's an A3 piece of paper, which is about this big. I don't know if you have measurements in America anymore. I forgot. I don't think you do. But it's about it's about, I don't know, 30, 40 lines of dialogue, and it's pretty natural. So I think 95% of the time I'm pretty happy with that. If I'm going to teach something like that, but usually I'll do my own lesson plan, and it depends on the level. But if it's an adult class, it'll be an article or I don't know, some kind of activity. It depends, it depends on the class. But anyway, I do make most of my lessons. But if you look online, you'll find there's tons of people who make lessons, and you can see what those lessons are like and alter them or just take them, steal them. I don't usually do that though, because I've been, one thing as a teacher, you've got to be interested in what you're teaching, because if you're not, that boredom is going to rub off on the students. They're going to see that, and you're not going to get a lot of energy going in the classroom. So, but it depends on you. If you are a gung-ho teacher, then make your own lesson, and that energy and that enthusiasm that you have for your lesson will flow. That energy will flow to the students, hopefully, and they'll be inspired and eager to learn your lesson as well, or to study that. But if you copy something, or if you're using some book that you really hate, then they're going to feel that energy too, that boredom, right? If you are forced to use a book, then try to enjoy the book. Try to, find something fun to do with the book. Use your imagination. Even criticize the book, like, oh, look at this guy. He's an idiot, whatever. Make fun, have some fun. Enjoy. Let's see. Number 5. How do you end your day? With a beer? Not always. Or a jog. How do you end your day? All right, that's all for today. See you guys next week. We're out of time. We'll finish this next week. My classes are pretty continuous because I have students that come every week. So I just say, we'll have to finish this next week or something like that. Nothing. Oh, but I will. Yes. With many classes, especially if they're a bit slow, I will end the class with a quick review by asking, depending on how many students are there, I'll go over either the most important parts of today's lesson. I'll say, okay, so how do we say, what do you say when? And I try to get them to, answer what we learned today. Or I'll even quiz the students, like, okay, before you leave, you have to tell me this, and I'll make them answer something that they supposedly learned in class. That's a good way to end the day, I think. It's a good review, and it's kind of fun. and you put students on the spot, and it's a little bit challenging. You don't want to make people feel stupid, but that's up to you. Okay. Number 6, do you think it's possible to live in Japan comfortably while teaching so long as you work hard? Yes, it's very easy. A lot of people are under the impression that teachers get paid crap. I won't say it's a lot. Like, I think by law it used to be about $2,500, 250,000 yen. Generally speaking, now I think it's lower because of that cap or minimum was removed. It's not even a cap; it's a minimum. And I've heard of schools offering as little as 180. But some of the schools will also offer other perks, like they'll help you with your apartment, which is sometimes just a way for them to scam more money out of you. So a lot of schools are bad, they don't treat you that well. But there are some cushy jobs out there, really cushy jobs. If you look around, really good ones, and there's always privates as well too. So there's that. Yeah, okay, so that's the end of topic 2. Topic 3, standards for entry-level teachers. Well, this is interesting. By the way, I have not looked at these questions yet. I'm just answering them off the top of my head. I've been teaching so long that I'm really confident about anything related to teaching. I can teach blindfolded, or, which doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you do that? But I can teach with no class, with no preparation at all. You can walk me into a room and say, teach this class, and as long as they're all relatively the same level. If you throw me in a room with completely different levels, that would be a challenge. But I think I could pull it off. Anyway, I'm a pompous, arrogant SOB when it comes to teaching. Number 1, how high of an education did you get before looking for a teaching job? I got a BA in English literature, and that's all. I don't have any TESOL or TOEFL or whatever. Well, TOEFL wouldn't make any sense. I don't have any other teaching things. I did go to a bunch of JAL conferences. Japanese Association of Language Teachers, I think JALT, yeah, JALT, that's what it was. I wouldn't, like 3 years in a row, I would go to like a weekly seminar and just attend. They offer all these different seminars. You can go and attend, and you can see what other teachers around Japan are doing. And they have I think monthly meetings as well, depending on the city. I'm sure they have them in all the big cities. They have them in Nagoya, and we're like the 3rd biggest city, so. Though I don't go anymore, though. I don't really see the point. Though I'm sure if I did go, I'm sure I'd be like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Let's see. Number 2, what kind of experience do you suggest I have before becoming a teacher? In Japan, a lot of schools will train you, so you don't really need any experience. If you can get some experience in the States, like even volunteering at a school or something, you'll have to look around for that. But yeah, of course, and the more, the better. So, but to be honest, to become a Japanese ESL teacher, you don't really need any experience. You just need the job, and hopefully it's a company that will train you. Number 3, what major minors did you get? Do you need to get your job? Nothing. No minors at all. And any major is fine. You can have a major in PE, art, science, music, whatever, really. Now, I have an English literature major, but it really doesn't matter. So, I do remember being interviewed early in my career after my first job. I interviewed at a place called Brothers. And I think they were pretty respected. They were in a pretty big building. I don't even know if they exist anymore. This is years ago. But the guy who was interviewing me, I had 1 year of experience already, right? He looks at my resume and he says, "There's nothing to indicate on this resume that you would be a. There's nothing to indicate that you are something like a fit to be a teacher or that you would want to be a teacher." I think it was weird. It's like, well, I'm an English lit major. That's more than probably even that guy, And I got a year experience, so. But he was kind of an ass. And needless to say, I didn't know how to answer that. I guess I was pretty intimidated, and I didn't get that job. So one of the few times I didn't get a job. Let's see, but it all turned out for the best because I got a much better job and a much better place. Number 4, because teaching is such a competitive field, is it? Are there majors or minors you would strongly recommend? No, not in Japan as an ESL teacher. I wouldn't. I get this question a lot. Get a major that you think will help you in the future, even if you're not an ESL teacher. Do not get a major just to be an ESL teacher. I don't think that's intelligent. I think because you might not like it. You might come over here and teach for a year and like, oh shit, I hate this. I should have taken business classes. So to be honest, getting a business major is never a mistake. I think because in the world, people always seem to want people who have business majors, which I'm not saying that's even good, but it seems to be something good to put on your resume. I do know that, or I heard that Google was, and a lot of companies, the really, really competitive companies like Google, etc., they only hire people who have a business major and something else. So, but the business major is like one of the requirements for those kind of companies. So, to teach, no. But if you're going to spend, I almost said waste all that money in college, then you might as well get something that you can use to further your career, no matter where you go, right? And everybody seems to want a business major. That's what I seem to get. Of course, I could be wrong about this, and if you could disagree, and if you do, then please leave in the comments what you think is a better answer for that. Okay. Let's see. Number 5. Any you strongly don't recommend? Are there any majors you don't recommend? Unless you're really going to. I almost said Japanese. No, if you really enjoy something, then if you really want to learn something and that's what your career is going to be, then that's the major you want to get. But if you're I should have said this. If you really don't know what you're going to do, then get a business major because you can probably get into any company that way. But if you really have a goal of what you want to do, and if you have a dream, then go ahead and follow the dream and get that major. So no, I won't say I'm against this kind of major, but Yahoo, and I never read these articles, but Yahoo.com is always saying what majors not to get, or what the best majors to get, or the highest paying majors, or the majors that make the most money in the first, that kind of stuff. So you can check those out. I'm sure there's a lot of articles about that. Number 6, are there any classes, degrees you would recommend taking after getting a teaching job? If you have the money and you have the time and you're definitely going to come to Japan and work, get a master's. Get a master's as soon as possible, and many more doors will open for you. And yeah, I mean it's true. Especially for colleges. Colleges want people. In the old days, you could get a job teaching at a college with just connections, but recently, they want someone with a master's. People with BAs are a dime a dozen now. Okay, that's the end of topic number 3: standards for entry-level English teachers. Topic number 4 is leadership style. Number 1: do you believe being a foreign teacher affects the ability to teach native students effectively? There's a big space there that made me pause. One more time. Do you believe being a foreign teacher affects the ability to teach native students effectively? Do you think it affects their ability to learn? Why or why not? To be honest, some native speakers like myself are so bad or so apathetic about their jobs that I think an enthusiastic non-native, like a Japanese teacher, would be better. Yeah, so it really depends on the person. The only thing I can say is that our pronunciation is much better. A lot of Japanese English teachers pronounce things wrong. The most typical examples are, instead of saying again, they will say again, or instead of saying said, they say said. Things like that. Bought, like I bought a new car, they would say I bought. Things like that. Don't becomes don't, and won't becomes won't. So the pronunciation is bad, but that's the best thing. Let's see. Oh, and the other plus might be is that we have some kind of. One of the problems with teaching Japanese is that they're not culturally raised to be aggressive speakers or talkative or involved speakers. So you've got to teach them how to be more aggressive with their questioning and answering. And some of the students I have are great that way, but some you have to, they ask a question, they get an answer, and they're like, okay, mission accomplished. They don't know how to grow a conversation. So you sometimes have to teach them that. And I think often a native speaker might be a little bit better, but not necessarily. So So I would say yes, it helps, but only with pronunciation for sure. Otherwise, it's really depends on the teacher. Number 2, what activities do you believe get students engaged and have fun while still learning? Really good, easy. We can go on and on in this category, but I'll give you one that seems to work all the time. Do guessing games where, this only works, of course, in groups, but guessing games where some student is somebody famous or is an animal or is a job. And the other students have to ask a certain bunch of, first you prepare the questions so they understand the questions. And you prepare the choices so they understand the choices. And then you get them to ask, either you can do this in pairs, in pair work, or you can pick one person and have the other students ask, like if there are 5 people, you can have them ask one person. And try to guess that person's job or celebrity, which celebrity they are, or which you can change this up. You can make them, make a country, like, okay, you are Africa. That's not a country. you are I don't know. You're France. Okay, that's a secret, right? So students have to ask questions that will until they figure out what country you are. So you can do any kind of guessing game, but it's pretty effective. It's kind of fun. And it makes students be a little. It forces them to be creative. So that seems to work. That's just one example, though. Other activities. Drawing games. Like you have one student have a picture, and he has to describe the picture to the other person. The other person has to draw the picture, and that's often fun. And because at the end you get to look at the dorky picture that person drew without looking, right? Okay. So number 3, how do or did you apply each learning technique, visual, hands-on, auditory? What? How do you apply each learning technique? How do you apply each learning technique? I don't understand that question. You just do it. Didn't I just explain that? I know this person's creating questions for a scholarly paper, but I don't know. I don't understand that one. If anyone understands that, please explain it to me in the comment section. Number 4, do you form friendly relationships with your students? I do, and I will warn you guys, like I warn my students. I warn my students all the time. Your company doesn't care about you. All your company cares about is making money. So quit working so hard for your company. A lot of my students work like 12-hour days. It depends on the company. I have a student at IBM who's always getting... he works sometimes 3 in the morning. I'm like, dude, why are you doing that? Just go home. Of course, I don't say dude, but I will say that be a little bit careful. You sometimes, and this goes both ways actually, you will form an unbalanced friendship with a student. And you will end up feeling hurt when they one day just leave and they don't even say goodbye. They just quit and leave, and that's it. Your feelings will be hurt. And vice versa, you will say to some students, hey, that was a good essay. Like this happened to me actually. I complimented this girl for her writing, and she seemed to think that meant I was in love with her, and she started stalking me. And actually, this has happened a couple times, and with 3 times with these 3 cases, it was always because the student because I complimented them on their writing. It's happened in other cases as well, and sometimes the students just imagine shit, And even if you have a girlfriend or you're married, some students don't seem to think that's any kind of obstacle. They seem to want to create an unbalanced relationship. So watch out on that front. And I hear it happens more to female teachers. So that does happen. And of course, the opposite. Well, not the opposite with me, but I'm sure that you hear about teachers dating their students sometimes and actually marrying them. So it's not that big a deal. But this is ESL, so they're all adults. And if something like that happens, they got married. So really, are you going to argue with that? Like, is it inappropriate? You married your student? Pretty common, actually. Even in Japan, it's pretty common to hear about high school teachers who end up marrying ex-students, which is, I think, still think it's kind of weird, but it's pretty common, and everyone kind of accepts it. So, of course, ex-students, not present students. Let's see. Let me see. Do you prefer one learning style over another? I think she meant teaching style. Everyone's got a different teaching style. The big thing you want to remember is that students are coming there to learn and to speak. not to hear your life story about it, why you think you're such a cool guy or gaijin, right? So don't let the gaijin level thing go to your head. The fact that you're a gaijin, I mean, some foreigners think that all they have to do is talk about their life. We've had teachers like that. So yeah, stay away from that. Give the students a chance to speak. Number 6. Oh yeah, another thing is be careful about this thing. And I've made this mistake in the past. Do not be judgmental with your morals in the classroom. I cannot stress that enough. If your student is an idiot and thinks whatever immoral thing that you decide is thing, well, if she or he states something that you think is just immoral, don't get on your high horse. Examples, when they're talking about ishoku, when some people transplanting body parts in Japan, a lot of people don't want it; they think it's terrible, and you're like, no, you should do that, help people, or adoption, or gun control, the death penalty. A lot of Japanese will have views on that you may not agree with. Best to keep it to yourself. Encourage them to state their opinion. Compliment them on stating their opinion well. You can try to encourage other students to argue with them, just for example. But don't get emotionally involved on that level. You'll just get pissed off. Okay. I had a student once tell me she didn't want to adopt because she was afraid that she would hit the child that she adopted if it wasn't her own blood. And I was already past the judging you for your immoral opinion stage, but I can easily imagine other teachers. I know a lot of other teachers who I'm sure would have said something. Also, here's another thing: be sensitive to what they think is important. Don't just try to impose what you think is important. Be sensitive about what they think is important. I'll give you an example. One student came to class. Her dog had died. True story. Okay. My teacher, who was a great teacher but kind of an emotional idiot, said, well, at least it wasn't a family member, because it's worse to lose a family member. And my student, and not if it wasn't my student, it was his student actually, but my school, she was crying, right? He's like, well, it could have been worse because, and then he goes into teaching sentences like, humans are more valuable than animals, right? So if you're one of these people who wants to come to Japan and change them and stop them from eating whales, or get rid of kanji or some bullshit agenda, yeah, maybe this isn't the country for you. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, be sensitive to what's important to them. They are the customer, though they are students, of course. They are students, but they are also paying customers, and they will. If you don't mind losing a student because over some immorality or some moral discrepancy that you might have detected with your own morals, then that's your choice. But I'm sure your school that you work for will not appreciate that. Number 6, are there restrictions set by schools that restrict how you teach? Lecture notes versus discussion interaction? Yes, a lot of schools will tell you exactly how they want you to teach, and if you work for one of those schools, then do exactly what they say, and you'll have no problem, right? It may be a pain, but then if you don't like it, get another job. Look for another job. That's all I can say about that. You may think it's stupid, but they're paying the bills. They're paying your salary. They're signing your check. They're transferring that money to your bank account. So, number 7, do you have general freedom on how you teach as long as the curriculum is followed? I do, of course. I create a curriculum, and but again, it depends on the class. Some classes don't have a curriculum. Some classes do, and as long as we try to get that done, then yeah, I'll diverge a little bit, branch off to off on different subjects, different topics. But as long as conversation is being produced, I feel like it's justified. Number 8, what is your morning routine before school? Do you commute? How and why is one way better over another? Depends on you. I have a dog that I take to school every day, so I put her in a basket and put her in my mamachari, which when I'm hit by a car and killed in that mamachari, you all have permission to laugh at me because that's a stupid way to die. It's embarrassing to die on a middle-aged woman's bicycle, which is what a mamachari is. But I take my mamachari to school. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. And that's the only way for me to go because I have the dog. However, if I did not have the dog, I would probably take a leisurely walk to the subway and take the subway to school. And then take a leisurely walk from the subway nearest my school and walk to the school. Subways, yeah, they're easy. They're quick. Even when it rains, you just got to put up with the rain a little bit. So, yeah. In Japan, most places have that kind of situation. Tokyo, the big cities. If you live out in the country, it's going to be a whole different thing. It's kind of a silly question. Guys, it depends on the situation. I don't know. Number 9, do you believe working as an ESL teacher in Japan is worth it? Or are there disillusionments in the idea of doing it? It really depends on you. If you come to Japan because you just want to be in Japan and you're not interested in teaching, but you put in an honest day's work and you are a sincere teacher, I've got nothing against you. If you come to Japan because you just want to hit on girls or check out anime and you don't give a shit about teaching and you're an insincere teacher who's basically robbing people by producing a bad product, when you're teaching your class, then yeah, you shouldn't do it. Don't do it, man. Save your money, come over here as a student and learn the language and have some fun, and you'll have a lot of free time to do whatever you want then. I don't know, but is it worth it? It's worth it for me. I like teaching. I'm lucky. I actually like and enjoy my class. I'll often drag out my class because I'm enjoying it and students are learning. So that is the end of topic number 4, leadership style. Topic number 5, the last, has only 3 questions. Yay! Other questions or comments. Okay, number 1. I guess this is miscellaneous. Number 1. Is there anything you recommend aspiring ESL teachers to keep in mind as they near college or actually teaching in Japan? Learn some. If you don't know any Japanese at all, you do not need it. You do not need Japanese at all to teach. However, if you do to learn a little Japanese, a little conversational Japanese, it will make your life a little bit easier. And you will have less stress in living in Japan, and that will in turn make you a less stressed out teacher. So that's good. The less stressed out you are, the better you will teach, because the better teacher you will be. Okay? If you're all stressed out, then, and it really depends on you. I remember, it depends on you. I remember I went through a really bad breakup here in Japan with a girl. Did I have to say she was a girl? Was that some kind of homophobic, don't think I'm gay kind of thing? Of course, anyway, I went through a bad breakup here, and I was miserable, really, for like 6 months or so. Like, just horribly miserable. This is years ago, so I can talk about it now. But my best times were when I was in the classroom during that time. I could forget everything. I could forget that I was alone and that she doesn't love me and that she was with another guy. I could forget all that when I was in the classroom. So for me, the classroom was kind of an escape for my stressed out life. But of course, other people I know are different. I know a teacher whose grandmother was dying, and she just, she couldn't keep it together in the classroom. So, yeah. Depends on you. Okay. But I think learning Japanese would be at least a little bit, at least conversational Japanese will be helpful. Number 2, what have been your most satisfying experiences as an ESL teacher? Did they make you glad you'd chosen that job? When students come to me and say, thanks to you, Victor, I was able to skip a certain section in college and go on. Or, thanks to you, Victor, I got this job at this company because my English skills were high enough for me and they require English. Thanks to you, Victor, I'm getting transferred to America and because I got this job. I get a lot of that. A lot of people, that's my most satisfying thing. Or people scored their target TOEIC score, which is very useful for them to get a job. So when people thank me, they say, hey, thank you very much. As an ESL teacher. Now, as a human being, no, as a human being, I've had other really, really rewarding and satisfying experiences here in Japan with Japanese people. But I have nothing to do with English. So, number 3, and other pieces of advice or something to say. I think I covered a lot here. There's always more to say. I think this video has gone on far enough. So let's just leave it at that. You may, in the end, it really depends on you. Some of you will come here and be lonely, and some of you will not enjoy the food, or you're the kind of people who get homesick, and some of you don't even know if you're that kind of person until you get here. So all I can say is, if that's what you want to try, then come over here and try. But be ready to. I will say this. I will give you this piece of advice. I will say that although I am happy with the way my life is turning out, because it's not over yet, that I often wonder what would have happened if I'd left Japan after a year and I'd gone back to America and I'd, taken up some job at a university or some gotten a corporate job or something like that. I really, of course I don't know, but it does leave me wondering. If you do have another goal in your life, and I guess I didn't, which is why maybe one reason I stayed, is it wasn't a big deal for me to stay. I wasn't betraying my dream or anything. But if you have a dream to get out of Japan and you want to come to Japan for 2 years and then get out and do something else, then do it. I often look with envy, I'll be honest, at some of my teachers who come to my school, worked at my school, and then have gone on to other countries. And I thought, wow, that's cool. But at the same time, there are certain things about my life that I'm sure they're jealous. My dashing good looks and my, whatever, what I'm saying. But if you have a dream, don't get stuck in Japan. I guess that would be the only advice I have. If you're not, unless you're going to make the effort to really learn the language and become a member of society as much as you can, then yeah, get out while you're young and go off and do other stuff. Go back to school, visit other countries. The world is large, and we are small, and life is short. So, although, like I said, I don't really have any regrets. I do wonder sometimes. What would have happened to me? Would I be a big fat old, 300-pound guy sitting in a basement somewhere in, I don't know, America? Who knows? But anyway, that's all I've got for you. This is probably, I'm expecting it to be my longest video ever. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be back with other much more enjoyable videos in the near future. Until next time, Flake Man signing out. See ya.